Welcome to Within She Rises, your new favorite channel for powerful stories of transformation, awakening, resilience, healing, love, and the hidden mysteries of the human soul. Tonight's story begins with a promise, not a promise spoken aloud, not a promise written on paper, but a promise understood without words. The kind of promise that exists between a human heart and a loyal dog. A promise made through countless mornings, countless walks, countless quiet moments. A promise that says, I will stay beside you for as long as I can. But what happens when one heart must leave before the other? What happens to loyalty when a lifetime ends? And where does unconditional love go when goodbye arrives too soon? This is the story of a man who thought he had lost his best friend forever. Until one moonlit night, when the Lady of Dreams appeared beside an old bridge and offered him a journey beyond sorrow, a journey to discover where faithful hearts wait. This is the dog who waited beyond the bridge. His name was Ethan Cole, and for 13 years, he had never walked alone. Every morning before sunrise, a golden retriever named Bailey waited patiently beside the front door, tail wagging, eyes bright, ready for another adventure. To strangers, Bailey was just a dog, but to Ethan, Bailey had been something far greater, a companion, a comfort, a witness, a best friend. Because Bailey had been there through everything, the good years, the difficult years, the days Ethan laughed, and the days he could barely get out of bed. Bailey never cared how successful Ethan was, never cared how much money he made, never cared whether he won or failed. Bailey simply loved him, every day. Without condition, without hesitation, without end. Life changed, as life always does. Friends moved away, relationships ended, jobs came and went. Entire chapters of Ethan's life opened and closed. But Bailey remained when Ethan sat alone after heartbreak. Bailey rested his head on his lap. When Ethan celebrated success, Bailey wagged his tail as though he had achieved it himself. When Ethan lost people he loved, Bailey sat quietly beside him, never offering advice, never needing words, only presence. And somehow, that presence was enough, because dogs possess a rare gift. They remind human beings that love does not need to be complicated. It only needs to be genuine. Then one autumn arrived, that neither of them could stop. Bailey began slowing down. The walks became shorter. The stairs became harder. The bright eyes that once chased every squirrel now carried quiet exhaustion. Ethan noticed every change, every gray hair, every slower step, every nap that lasted a little longer. But like many people facing loss, he pretended not to see, because acknowledging the truth made it real. And Ethan was not ready, not yet. Perhaps no one ever is. One evening, the veterinarian spoke gently, kindly, carefully, but the meaning remained the same. The time they had left together was growing short. Ethan nodded, thanked the doctor, and drove home in silence. Bailey sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, as he always had. The sunset painted gold across the sky. Neither of them knew it then, but they were driving through one of their final evenings together. And somehow, Bailey seemed perfectly at peace, as though he understood something Ethan did not. A few weeks later, on a quiet morning touched by spring rain, Bailey fell asleep beside Ethan's chair, and never woke up. There was no fear, no struggle, no pain, only peace. The kind of peace reserved for souls who have completed their journey. Ethan sat beside him for hours, unable to move, unable to speak, one hand resting gently upon Bailey's fur. The house felt impossibly quiet. The silence was unbearable. Because for 13 years, that silence had never existed. The weeks that followed felt strange. Every morning, Ethan still reached for the leash. Then remembered. Every evening, he glanced toward the door. Then remembered. Sometimes he thought he heard paws across the floor, or a familiar bark in another room, but the house remained empty. The leash still hung beside the door, waiting, just as he was. Then, one evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, Ethan walked to the old stone bridge where Bailey had always loved to watch the river. The moon hung low above the water, silver light danced across the current. And standing at the center of the bridge was a woman dressed in flowing white silk, waiting. The river flowed quietly beneath the bridge. Silver moonlight shimmered across the water. The night air carried the scent of rain and wild grass. Ethan stopped walking. The woman stood motionless at the center of the bridge. Her white silk moved gently in the wind. Her dark hair flowed like shadows touched by moonlight. For a moment, she seemed less like a person, and more like a memory, or perhaps a dream. Then she turned toward him, and smiled. Not the smile of a stranger. The smile of someone who already knew why he had come. Ethan hesitated, then spoke. "Do I know you?" The woman looked toward the river, as though listening to something hidden beneath the water. Then answered softly, "Not yet." The response felt strangely familiar. The same way certain dreams feel familiar, even when you've never seen them before. The woman stepped closer. Moonlight danced across the bridge stones. And for a brief moment, Ethan felt something he had not felt in weeks. Peace, not complete peace, not healing, but the first small crack in his grief, the first breath after a long storm. Then the woman asked, "Why do you keep coming here?" Ethan looked down at the river. For a while he couldn't answer, because the truth sounded foolish, at least to most people. Finally he said, "Bailey loved this bridge." The words caught in his throat. "We came here almost every evening." His voice grew quieter. "He would sit right there." Ethan pointed toward a worn section of stone near the edge. "And watch the water." A sad smile touched his face, as though he understood some secret the rest of us didn't. The woman listened carefully, then asked, "And now?" Ethan swallowed. "Now I come because it feels like the last place he still exists." The river carried his words away, and for the first time he admitted what his heart had been hiding. "I don't know how to stop missing him." The woman remained silent. Then she stepped toward the edge of the bridge. The river below suddenly shimmered, not with moonlight, with silver light. The current brightened. The water transformed into flowing stars. Ethan stared, unable to believe what he was seeing. The river seemed endless now, far wider than before, far deeper, as though another world existed beneath its surface. Then the woman finally spoke. "There is a bridge hidden from human eyes." The stars flowed through the water, a bridge crossed only by faithful hearts. Ethan's breath caught. The night grew still, and somewhere far away, he thought he heard the sound of paws. Ethan listened carefully, his heart pounding. "What kind of bridge?" The woman smiled softly. "The bridge of faithful hearts." The words seemed to echo beyond the night, beyond the river, beyond the stars themselves. The woman looked toward the glowing water. Every act of unconditional love leaves a mark upon it. Silver ripples spread across the current. Every loyal friendship strengthens it. The bridge began appearing within the river's reflection, a magnificent structure woven from light. And every soul that loved without asking for anything in return, her voice softened, knows the way. Ethan stared in awe, because somehow, the bridge felt familiar. As though Bailey had always known it existed. Then Ethan asked the question his heart had been carrying since Bailey's final day. The question he was almost afraid to speak aloud. "Is he gone?" The words barely escaped his lips. The woman turned toward him. Her eyes reflected stars, and oceans, and ages beyond counting. Then she answered, "No." The single word shattered the silence. Not gone, not forgotten, not lost. The river brightened, the silver bridge glowed. And somewhere beyond the flowing stars, a familiar bark echoed softly through the night. Ethan froze. his heart stopped, because he knew that bark. He would have recognized it anywhere. Slowly, the Lady of Dreams stepped onto the glowing bridge. The river disappeared beneath silver mist. The stars brightened overhead. Then she turned back toward Ethan and extended her hand. Come. The bridge stretched endlessly into the night, toward somewhere impossible, toward somewhere beautiful, toward somewhere no ordinary map could ever find. Ethan stared at the outstretched hand, then toward the bridge, then toward the silver horizon, and for the first time since losing Bailey, he felt something stronger than grief: hope. Ethan looked at the outstretched hand. The silver bridge shimmered beneath the stars. The river below had vanished completely now. Only mist remained, silver endless, alive. For a moment, fear whispered inside him, because every human heart understands one truth: the unknown is frightening, even when it is beautiful. The Lady of Dreams waited patiently, never rushing, never demanding, simply offering, the same way destiny often does. Finally, Ethan reached forward and took her hand. The moment their fingers touched, the bridge awakened. Light surged beneath their feet, the stars above brightened, and the world they had left behind disappeared. The journey felt impossible to describe. They walked through starlight, past rivers made of memories, past mountains woven from dreams, past skies painted with colors no earthly sunrise had ever known. Time seemed different here. Perhaps it did not exist at all. Ethan could not tell. Every step felt lighter. Every breath felt deeper. And for the first time in many months, his heart no longer felt heavy. The grief was still there, but it was changing, transforming, becoming something softer, something gentler, something closer to love. Then suddenly, the bridge ended, and Ethan stopped, because before him stretched a valley unlike anything he had ever seen. Golden fields stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Wildflowers danced beneath warm sunlight. Crystal streams wound through emerald grass. The air carried laughter, not human laughter, something lighter, something joyful, something pure. Then Ethan saw them. Dogs, hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, running through the fields, playing beside rivers, sleeping beneath ancient trees, chasing butterflies made of light. Every breed, every color, every age, and every one of them looked happy. Truly happy. The sight stole his breath. What is this place? He whispered. The Lady of Dreams smiled. The Valley of Waiting Companions. Ethan watched in amazement. A small terrier raced through tall grass. A shepherd leaped joyfully across a stream. An elderly Labrador slept peacefully beneath sunlight. There was no pain here, no fear, no sickness, only peace. The Lady of Dreams walked beside him. Every companion who loved faithfully arrives here. The breeze carried the scent of summer. They wait. Ethan swallowed. For what? The Lady of Dreams looked toward the horizon. For the people they love. The words settled gently into his heart. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Dogs never measure love the way humans do. They do not count years. They do not count mistakes. They do not count failures. They only remember love. Then, somewhere across the valley, a bark echoed. Sharp, familiar, impossible. Ethan froze. Every muscle in his body tightened. His heart raced. The bark came again, closer this time. His eyes scanned the fields desperately. The streams, the hills, the trees. Then suddenly, golden shape burst through the tall grass, running fast, joyfully, straight toward him. Ethan's breath caught. The world seemed to stop. Because he knew that run, he knew that bark, he knew that joyful energy. There was no doubt, not even for a second. Bailey, he whispered. Bailey ran faster, tail wagging wildly, eyes shining brighter than Ethan remembered. Younger, healthier, stronger, like time itself had released him. Ethan fell to his knees. Tears streamed freely. and Bailey leaped into his arms. The impact nearly knocked him backward. Warm fur, a beating heart, a familiar scent. Everything was real. For a moment, neither of them moved. Neither of them needed to. Because some reunions happen beyond words, beyond explanation, beyond understanding. Only love existed, and that was enough. Ethan buried his face into Bailey's fur. For a long moment, he could not speak. The valley faded around them. The flowers, the streams, the endless golden horizon. None of it mattered. Only Bailey. Only the friend he thought he had lost forever. Bailey wagged his tail exactly as he always had. The same joy, the same excitement, the same unconditional love, as though not a single day had passed. Ethan laughed through tears. The kind of laugh that arrives only after great sorrow. The kind that sounds like healing. "Look at you," he whispered. Bailey responded by licking his face. And for the first time in many months, Ethan's heart felt whole. Then something extraordinary happened. Bailey stepped back and looked directly into Ethan's eyes. The world became still. The wind quieted. The streams slowed. The valley itself seemed to listen. And suddenly, Ethan understood him. Not through words, not through language. Something deeper. Heart speaking to heart. Soul speaking to soul. A lifetime of loyalty condensed into a single understanding. And what Bailey shared surprised him. Because there was no sadness, no regret, no fear. Only gratitude. Pure gratitude. For every walk, every adventure, every ordinary day they had shared together. Images began appearing around them. Living memories. Floating through the air like sunlight reflected upon water. Ethan saw Bailey as a puppy, running across a backyard, chasing leaves, discovering the world. Then another memory. Their first hike together. Then another rainy afternoons by the fireplace. Then another long drives with the windows down. The memories continued endlessly. Simple moments, ordinary moments. The moments people often forget, until they become priceless. Then Ethan realized something. The most important memories had never been the extraordinary ones. They had been the ordinary days, the quiet days, the shared days, the days that felt insignificant at the time, but became treasures later. The Lady of Dreams appeared beside them, watching quietly, as she always did. Then she spoke. "Do you know why dogs enter human lives?" Ethan wiped his eyes and shook his head. The Lady of Dreams looked across the valley, toward thousands of faithful companions, then answered softly, "To teach humans what love looks like when it asks for nothing in return." The breeze moved through the golden grass. They arrive with open hearts. The valley glowed. They forgive quickly. The streams shimmered. They love completely. The sunlight brightened. And when their time ends, her voice became almost a whisper. They leave behind lessons that last far longer than their lives. Ethan looked down at Bailey, and suddenly understood. The pain he carried had never come from losing Bailey. The pain came from believing the story had ended, but it hadn't. Because love does not end where a heartbeat stops. Love continues. Inside memories, inside gratitude, inside the people and lives it transforms. Bailey wagged his tail, as if confirming the thought. Then Ethan laughed again, and this time, there was no sadness in it. Only love, only appreciation, only peace. The valley began glowing brighter. The streams turned silver. The horizon shimmered, and Ethan knew the moment was ending. Bailey knew too, yet neither of them felt afraid. Because some goodbyes are different. Some goodbyes carry certainty. The certainty that love remains. Ethan knelt once more, holding Bailey close. "Thank you." The words were simple, but they carried 13 years of meaning. 13 years of loyalty. 13 years of friendship. 13 years of unconditional love. Bailey licked his cheek one final time, then stepped back, tail wagging, eyes shining, happy, always happy. The valley of waiting companions faded. The golden fields disappeared, the silver streams dissolved, and Ethan found himself once more upon the old stone bridge. Moonlight shimmered across the river. The night was quiet, peaceful, still. The Lady of Dreams stood beside him, then gently smiled. "He's not waiting for you to be sad." The river glowed softly. "He's waiting for you to live." The words settled deeply inside him, and for the first time since Bailey's passing, Ethan believed them. When he turned to thank her, she was gone. Only moonlight remained, and somewhere across the river, he thought he heard a happy bark carried by the wind. Months later, people noticed something different about Ethan. He smiled more, laughed more, lived more. The leash still hung beside the door. But now, it no longer represented loss. It represented gratitude, a reminder that for 13 extraordinary years, he had been loved completely. And every evening, when he walked across the old bridge, he no longer searched for what he had lost. Instead, he gave thanks for what he had received, because somewhere beyond the stars, beyond the bridge of faithful hearts, a loyal friend still ran through golden fields, tail wagging, watching, waiting, and loving him still. If this story touched your heart, remember this: the greatest gift our companions leave behind is not sorrow. It is the love they taught us how to give. If this story found you at the right moment, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Within She Rises, and share it with someone who misses a faithful friend. And tell us in the comments, what is one memory of a beloved pet that you will carry forever? Until next time, keep rising.